What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, Chris? That end of day pump, that's usually what you consider to be sometimes a blow off the top or it's just an end of day short squeeze basically. I mean if you kind of see today, I mean we had a lot of chop after this morning's little pump action that we got because you actually probably heard me and Avery just saying no, it was literally just scalp city this morning in which it was just a chop zone. We had that beautiful little push towards the end of lunch hour there, and then that was just the end of day squeeze. So after you get so much consolidation, so much chop, you usually get such a big directional move, and that was pretty much our end of day directional move that we ended up having. So 450 was that mark I was pretty much watching. Those of you that pretty much were watching my stream, it was pretty much the third resistance that I had pretty much highlighted there, and that's exactly what we pretty much ended up going towards. So that was definitely a beautiful push. We got right into the end of the day. Some names were pretty much showing some strengths, others were not. As I was pretty much watching, what I would say is my leading indicators the past 6 days, or rather 7 days, since this entire rally was pretty much looking at Apple and Tesla. And today was actually a little bit odd because Apple was actually still showing quite a bit of strength um, after the fact that they had the news. I actually was expecting that to break down. They had the news alert intraday, in which they're gonna have the software, the hardware, basically doing some kind of payments plans, basically like how Verizon, AT&T, all these carriers would do. In terms of their hardware, they're gonna be having their own hardware service plan. So that was pretty much interesting, and that's what actually ended up relieving Apple and ended up carrying Apple with Microsoft right behind it relatively. And then we also saw some other names. They're pretty much trying to make their move. I think Facebook was literally right behind that. But Tesla's weakness was a little bit of a question mark for me. So I did end up taking a little bit of a lotto here into the end of the day. I took some 98. I took 985 put. I literally just bought one, just going into tomorrow. Maybe it could double, maybe it could triple. Who knows? So I'll keep an eye on that one. I know that 1013 is pretty much the high end resistance right now for it. And then under 996, we could see that low that we had today, this morning rather, that was at 990. So if we break under 990, I think we can pretty much see a lot more room to the downside here. Maybe go down towards 976, 974. And that'll likely put my puts right into the money. So I think the risk reward was pretty much ideally there, and I did like it, and that was something that I ended up. I was like, all right, it's about $400 for a taker, for the strike. I'll just grab one, and we'll see what the risk reward is in terms of that. So that was pretty much nice to see off of taking that. We'll see what it does by morning. I think what was actually stood out to me this morning though was the strength out of the semis, and that's why if you heard me talking, I was really looking at towards AMD. When I had already saw Nvidia, it was already up about a good $6-7, and I wasn't as comfortable trying to chase that as I was with AMD, especially if you heard me in the past few days. AMD 120 calls were getting just endless volume the past few days. And that's what stood out to me. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, if Nvidia is going to end up going here, we're going to see continuation off of whatever it was up $6-7 at that point. I'm like, AMD is really going to have to follow. And that's exactly what I ended up doing. I went into AMD calls. I was looking for that break over that 116 half. Once we ended up getting that break, you saw that we pretty much ended up making a new high right to put one of those 120s right into the money end of the day. So that was just a beautiful sign to see. That was definitely just one of the pretty much a highlight of my morning in which I took my money and I pretty much ran off of that. The other highlight was I think there was another name that stood out to me, if I'm not mistaken, but it might have just been Apple that I'm confusing with. But that was pretty much what I took away from today. I do believe that we're pretty much coming into maybe a top here. It could be a fact that we end up smacking right into 452 here. I do have a little bit of a resistance sitting just under that 452 mark. So that could be in which case that we end up gapping up overnight. That would also likely put Apple at that 175 mark as well, which has also been catching my attention after that late day push. So Apple can make his move towards that 175 mark among some other names. Maybe we could see a little bit more of a continuation off of the momentum from the semis. And then what I do anticipate is that I think we are going to see some kind of green to red action tomorrow. And that's literally what I'm pretty much anticipating, right? That's just my personal preference in which I'm literally looking forward to. There's other scenarios in which we can pretty much run SPY up to 456 and the rally just continues to go on and on, right? But that's why more so if you heard me on live towards the end of the day, I'm like I'd rather just pretty much just stay cash than try to fight the train or try to buy up so high when we already had such a massive squeeze. I don't want to end up waking up tomorrow morning trying to fight myself out of a hole tomorrow when I would rather just wait for the directional play tomorrow morning and then I'll pretty much work my way with maybe some 0 days that are pretty much manageable in terms of losses. All right. But other than that, that kind of was my thought process through the whole day. But I think if we end up losing tomorrow, losing this 452, that be the gap up or not, I do think we have pretty much a good chance of breaking that 446 mark, and that's what I'm really aiming for tomorrow. So, other than that, though, I still have my anchor view up, which I'm looking at towards the bottom here. 441 was the other support level I was watching, but 446 and 441 is really the major levels that I'm particularly watching for the downside. All right. But that's pretty much just the highlight of what I was looking at today. What about INTC? Think it will pull back tomorrow? James, that's actually the bigger question is that the semis actually have so much strength right now. And I think AMD actually has about another $2 to $3 move out of it. So the question mark in terms of your question will be whether we get the gap up tomorrow or not. Because if it actually plays out in the way that I'm thinking that we end up getting a gap up tomorrow morning and then we literally just fade off of that, then you may not be able to get that opportunity to get into to Intel. That's my only concern about that. If you don't see a gap up tomorrow, then we do have the potential to get what I would say is a little bit of a dip and rip. Maybe we get a gap, somewhat of a small gap up to 452. We pretty much get a nice little dip that creates your opportunity for Intel, and then we get the rip. So that'll all depend. If I want to actually take a look at the chart, maybe because I have not looked at Intel at all, and that is one hell of a daily candle off of Intel. Wow, I did not realize that. That is definitely a hell of an Intel candle because I know that this stock does not move that much. So quite the candle that you got. But if I'm pretty much looking for your pullback spot in which is ideal to pretty much re-enter on this, is you're looking for this low 51 mark in which you're looking about 51.15 to 51.20 will be that ideal spot in which I will look for a dip buy potential on Intel. All right. But granted the fact that it's ran up so much today, I'm very hard pressed to say that you really want to buy it up here. I would wait more so for a more meaningful pullback. And when I say meaningful, I think that you can possibly get an opportunity here, 50.26, in which you pretty much that's acted as where it was prior support of resistance before we took off and then we broke down. So that's what I would pretty much look for in terms of that. But if you're looking for a single day move tomorrow, then you can pretty much look to get in here at that 51.25 level to 25, 51.30, and that'll be your ideal spot if you're looking for a day trade tomorrow. All right. Barrett gold, not actual gold, but the ticker gold. Um, Let me see if I look it up real quick. Barrett gold. Let's see what gold is actually doing. Someone actually had me look this up yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. Let me take a peep. See if I look at it. I think the weekly probably gives you a better idea what we're looking at here. Let's see where our current supply zone is that we're watching right now. I'll probably give you a better idea. So I think you're sitting right about here is where your potential supply zone is right now. So if you're looking for where sellers are going to repeatedly try to step in, it's going to be this 25.80 up towards 26 mark. That's where you're going to be looking in terms of sellers trying to step in. If you're trying to get the push, and that's not, I'm assuming you're trying to get the push out of current level, then you're ideally looking for this break here over this 25.10 mark is what you're ideally looking for to make that push right into your quote unquote supply zone here up at the top where you are going to end up potentially filling that wick that you have back from the 22nd. So, off from the 7th, I mean. So, that's pretty much what I would look for in terms of that. But other than that, yeah, I know it's a very slow mover. Right now, I think it's more of a longer term play. I wouldn't necessarily try to go like short term play on this, especially with the market running like this. I think that you'll be able to get a nice longer term picture on gold. But if you're just looking for the quick scalp or short term opportunity, then you pretty much look for this wick fill, which takes it right up to 26, right? But you definitely want to break this 25.10, and that'll give you that better move towards that wick fill. All right. Can I take a look at SMG? me see what's going on with SMG here. This looks like one of those never-ending falling wedge type of movements. Let's see if we get a better indication. All right. So pretty much looking at your little falling wedge action that's going on here. See if we take a peep. And I would rather just put this on the body. All right. So pretty much this is what I would look at in terms of your downtrend resistance. You pretty much just hit it off the weekly. Now if we go down to the daily, in which we're gonna look for a better scenario. So yeah, you just hit that downtrend resistance here on the 21st. You pretty much made a pullback. You ideally hit your support level that you needed to bounce off of that 120, 138. That was ideal support. You got the bounce that you wanted. Now you do need to make that push right back up towards the downtrend resistance. If we can make a break here over this 130.70 mark, then that'll be the spot where you want to ideally get into this. So right now, I wouldn't tell you to pretty much dip your toes into this just yet because you're still in a defined downtrend resistance. Once you get that break over that 130.70 mark, then we'll be able to pretty much make a beautiful move right up above that downtrend resistance. The other factor that could end up being played in here is that you do have maybe somewhat of a inverted head and shoulders that could be playing out here. You have this inverted left shoulder. You already have the massive head. And then what could end up happening is that you retest this support that you had from today yet again tomorrow, and that allows it to pretty much curl right back up going into next week. So that's what I would anticipate. But your ideal spot again for right now is that 130. I said 130.70 is that spot that you're looking for to get that break over. All right. But I do like the potential for an inverted head and shoulders if that's something that you didn't notice. All right. Someone said Walmart. I've been waiting on Walmart. I'm not gonna lie. Walmart to me is pretty much a little bit more of a wait and see approach right now. I'm actually waiting for it to pretty much drop down just a bit longer. I think we're gonna end up hitting this anchored VWAP that you see. I can delete the other one. If you see, we actually have an anchor view up here from the prior high here from November 5th. I think we're going to end up testing that anchor view up, which also is confluence with the downtrend resistance to pretty much retest it as support now. And that'll pretty much put you at that 141 flat mark. So that's what I would look to pretty much retest here, whether it be tomorrow or on Monday. And that's what I'll be watching for is to go long off of that 141 mark. I would hope to pretty much get a fill under 141. Maybe we get some kind of wick down under 141, and that'll be where I potentially look to get into some calls, trying to turn my attention into value as this tech move pretty much seems to start getting exhausted here at the top. So as we pretty much switch right out of tech here sooner than later, maybe going into next week rather, if we want to play it safe, then this may be something that I turn my attention to into Walmart and trying to get some kind of fill under that 141 mark. But that 141 is your ideal support that you want to watch. That is confluence with your anchored VWAP and your downtrend resistance that you have for support now to retest. All right. I'll take a look at the last one here. I know that class is about to start real quick, so I'll take a look at LMT and then we'll put it a wrap and we'll pretty much join into class here. Looking into LMT, I would pretty much stay clear of this one until we're able to get over this 455 mark. 455, I want closer to 456 is the ideal spot that I want to see this break over. That's really been the spot in which I see some confidence in terms of some overhead resistance. So I would wait for that 446 break. You get the 456 break, and then we could play this up. Just a little bit of resistance that I think is noted is right around under 460. And then we get that break over 460. There is some resistance here at 465. So that's what I'll be watching. I know that there was also a little bit of a headline here going into the end of the day in which Putin pretty much mentioned something that he's backed up against a corner of some sort. I can actually give you the headline. It says U.S. official Putin stirs the U.S. concern that he feels cornered and may lash out. In which, if obviously if he lashes out, then LMT is pretty much going to end up mooning. The only concern is that it is going to be very news related. So, if talks about Putin pretty much calm down, then we may end up starting to see this fade. If we see some trouble start to continue to stir up yet again, and likely over the weekend, then you'll likely see this pop. So very news related. I mean, I know the premiums are pretty expensive. If you're trying to day trade it tomorrow, go for it. But if you're trying to hold this over the weekend, That could be very costly because it's going to be very prone to news. All right, that would be my only concern for you. Okay. But other than that, hopefully those few tickers kind of helped you guys. Maybe you're holding positions or you're looking to enter. But other than that, that kind of wraps up our session here, guys. Tomorrow's Friday. It's some 0 days, so we'll see what it is. We'll wake up tomorrow morning and see what the market gives us. But other than that, that wraps it up for me today, guys. You guys have a great afternoon. Join into class with Sig and Dapper, and I'll see you guys in the morning. Later, guys.